This is a Wisconsin Sports Zone update.
Well, it's week 2 of OTAs for the Packers up in Green Bay. None of the practices are in pads. That will have to wait until training camp next month. That, along with the preseason, should give the coaching staff a better idea of whether they've actually improved what was an anemic pass rush last year, especially against the best opponents. But Coach Matt LaFleur does feel optimistic that they've made strides there, despite not signing anyone in free agency or using a high draft pick on the pass rusher.
Some of the stuff that we've been talking over, I think the guys have a really good understanding of what everybody's responsibility is. I think that we're going to be a little cleaner in our rush lanes and not allowing big gaps up front, whether it's quarterbacks stepping up or scrambling. So as far as I can tell, the communication's been great. I think DC's done a great job.
Again, the Packers back on the field tomorrow for practice, one that is open to the media after this week. Just a mandatory minicamp next week to finish out the offseason. Turning to Wisconsin, Badgers had a big first weekend of official visits. Double-digit number of guys were in town. Several ended up committing as part of the 2026 class. That included 3-star linebacker Ben Wenzel out of Appleton. He chose the Badgers over Oklahoma. More commitments are expected this week.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
They believe in protecting the families and children in our farming communities. Kids love to be included in the daily farm activities, but accidents can happen quickly. Reduce the chance of injury by making sure your farm is a safe environment for adults and kids. Learn more at ruralmutual.com.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
Well, the Brewers and Reds opening up a 3-game series tonight down in Cincinnati. Milwaukee comes in having won 7 in a row, longest streak since a 9-game winning streak back in August of 2023. With this Wisconsin Sports Zone Network update, I'm Zach Heil, Print.
If you want to be a good team, you got to stay relentless throughout the game and look for opportunities. Every pitch counts. It really does. Every out, 2 outs, nobody on. We got to play defense and we got to base run and we got to keep base running even after we get thrown out.
This is where Wisconsin gathers to talk sports. Packers, Brewers, Badgers, Bucks. The Wisco Sports Show is on the air. Now, here's your host, Grant Bills.
That's Pat Murphy yesterday. Mike Clemens been very busy with Packers stuff. And sometimes I'm lucky, Mike sends me a file that he gets from one of his journalist friends, or maybe, Mike's been covering some ball games at American Family Field too. I didn't have audio of Murphy yesterday. And God knows the FanDuel channel, they don't post that stuff anymore. So I went to MLB.com and they had a little 60-second snippet. And I thought that was good Murph. I think that kind of highlights the type of manager that he is, for good or for bad. When it's working, it's like, hell yeah, that's the way the game should be played. And then when the team is losing, it's like, it's kind of a caveman approach to a game that's a little bit more complex than Murph is making it. You can kind of change our perspective of Murphy. Certainly prefer Murph ball when they've won 7 in a row. That's where we begin tonight. This is the Wisco Sports Show. My name is Grant Bills. We're going to talk a little NFL. There was some big news in the NFC North earlier today that may or may not end up mattering come the season. That's the case with a lot of these stories and these headlines in late May and in early June. It's like, oh, this is a big story. Is it a big story, or is it just the only thing that's going on? And then come August, September, October, are we going to forget all about it? Frank Ragnow retired today, which I had it in my mind that he was a lot older. He just turned 29. So that's an early retirement. You could throw that one on the pile with, Calvin Johnson or Barry Sanders, different level players. But I saw a lot of people making those jokes and comparisons earlier today. But really high level offensive linemen. I would assume the Lions maybe had some idea that this could happen, just because I can't imagine he'd pull that completely out of nowhere. So I do want to talk a little NFL tonight. We'll get into that. And we're going to talk a little college football too. Jesse Temple is going to be here because starting tomorrow, I'm going to be on the road. Bill and I are going to La Crosse tomorrow and Wednesday, and then we'll be in Eau Claire on Thursday. So I texted Jesse today. He's finally able to announce his new venture. It's called Badger Connect, and we're going to talk about that with him. And also, there's been some actual football news and a little basketball news as well. So we'll do that in hour number 2. But I told Jesse, I know we normally chat on Wednesday, but if you want to do it this week, it's either got to be today or Friday, or we're going to have to do some crazy thing where I'd record a FaceTime or something, and nobody wants to do that. So Jesse's going to join us in hour number 2 to tell us about where you can follow his work now that he's not with The Athletic anymore. And to talk about the latest news, a lot of official visits in Madison this last weekend as well. So we can get into that. Your calls and text welcome. Always 608-321-1670. Comment on the live stream. I see Clemhead Mike over there, and Nick and Tyler in Massachusetts. Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter at Wisco Grant. I'd like to begin the show today by calling out the haters and the whiners and the complainers, because I realize sports radio in Wisconsin is not what it is in New York or Boston or Philly. We don't have that angry edge about us all the time, and the phones aren't ringing off the hook all the time. Fire Murphy, we're a little bit more laid back, but there are plenty of sports talk radio options in this state. A lot of good shows. And I can't believe it, because as I watch the Brewers win 7 in a row, I think of all the radio hosts out there that should need to apologize to this team. So many been so negative. And you don't get that on this show. I've given the Brewers the benefit of the doubt. I've been very level-headed on them. But there have been plenty of other radio shows and hosts. It's like, man, Joey Ortiz sucks. There's nothing good about Joey Ortiz other than the fact that he plays every day. And Caleb Durbin, he sucks. I know he's making plays, but he sucks too. Lots of shows saying things like that. Lots of other radio hosts, Wisconsin sports talkers, saying, well, William Contreras, he can't play with a broken finger for another 100 games. That's just silly. Why would the organization let him do that? Those people are idiots. They can apologize today. Lots of people whining that Pat Murphy, you can't manage a bullpen, and Freddie Peralta isn't a real ace, these types of things. I can't believe the negativity in this state. I just can't believe it. It's disgusting. If I may be frank, I'm disgusted by the environment in which I work. And this is why I've been optimistic throughout. If you've listened to the show throughout the season, and just take my word for it, please don't go listen to the podcast or rewind the stream or anything like that. I've been very level-headed, saying very fair and honest things. My assessments of this team have been completely unbiased and uncolored. I've been saying things like, hey guys, just give Joey Ortiz a little time. I mean, could you climb out of his butt? It's only been 50-some games. Caleb Durbin, I know he's undersized and he's not really good at any position. He doesn't hit the ball hard, but just let him find himself. He's a young player after all. I mean, I've been very fair and reasonable, and I've said throughout the season, guys, take it easy. Christian Yelich is a perfectly fine choice to be the designated hitter and hit cleanup, even against lefties. It's fine. It's fine. And I said last week, I said, guys, it's okay. They sent Logan Henderson down. No big deal. He can help the Major League Ball Club next year. Not a big deal at all. I, for one, never said anything critical about this team for the first couple of months of the season. I never questioned their talent. I never questioned their management choices. I never questioned their process in the front office. And again, you guys don't need to go back and check the podcasts or look at my old tweets. I haven't said a single negative thing about this team. And now that they've won 7 in a row, I think all of the haters and the complainers and the whiners and the Wisconsin sports talkers who have been so negative about the thing since late March, I think they should have to apologize. And it breaks my heart that so many Wisconsin sports people had basically given up on this season. Now, I, again, would never, I don't think I've said a single negative thing about the team or the way that they've built this roster or, anything like that. Again, no need to check the podcast. Unless you want to download them to boost my stats, there's no reason to go back and listen to old shows. We're in the here and now. I needed to get that off my chest. Okay. Now that we've done that, Bill asked me earlier today if I was shocked by this recent Brewers streak. He's like, are you surprised? Are you shocked that they've won 7 in a row? So I'd like to use that as a prompt and consider all the different components here of the Brewers' recent successes, the last 7 wins in a row against the Red Sox. I guess 1 final one against the Pirates, 3 against the Red Sox, 3 against the Phillies over last week. Let's talk about some of the big components, the reasons why they've been winning all these games. Chourio and Yelich have definitely turned a corner. I think that's a huge part of this. Yelich hit a walk-off grand slam. Chourio's been stacking up RBIs and big hits like cordwood. Yelich just named the NL Player of the Week. Brewers tweeted out a nice little graphic. The FanDuel channel has been silent so far, but I'll continue to monitor their feed. 10 of his last 20, 3 home runs, 9 RBIs. Chourio over the last 7, 10 of 28 with 2 home runs, 2 RBIs, 2 home runs, 3 doubles, 8 RBIs, and a walk mixed in there, which might be the most impressive statistic in that line. Yelich is okay. He's in the lineup tonight, by the way. Brewers lineup is out. McAlvey reported it, I guess, around 3:30 that he would be in. So Yelich is okay. Just left the game early, precautionary. His hand seized up a little bit and he couldn't hold the bat. Chourio and Yelich providing a lot of power, providing a lot of pop. Very pleasant development, but I wouldn't say shocking, right? Are you surprised that Chourio has gotten hot? No, this is the exact same trajectory he was on last year and the year before, if you want to go back through his minor league career too. Yelich has not been MVP level every year since he arrived in Milwaukee, but he looked pretty darn good last year. He was an all-star starter, and then he got hurt. I didn't think he was going to suck that bad all year. I don't know if we're going to see any stretch of play that's a month long or 2 months long like we saw last year. But the fact that we're getting it for a week, not surprising at all. So I think the biggest piece, or one of the big pieces of this recent streak, is Chourio and Yelich. That's not surprising at all. The bullpen holding it down. Some close games in Boston, and then doing a good job, especially yesterday against Philly, holding on to a 2-run lead late. The eye test showed me yesterday that when Mears and Koenig and Uribe and McGill are rested and right, those guys are elite. They looked a little bit different yesterday, didn't they? A little bit more aggressive, coming after hitters, not reacting as much, but kind of coming right after guys. Uribe especially, and I was listening a little bit to the radio broadcast that inning too, because I was making a pie. It's rhubarb season, and I didn't want to have to keep looking over at my laptop, so I just put the game on in my earbuds. And Grindle and Mauer, even during that inning, were like, yeah, this looks like a different version of Uribe. This looks like a rested, confident version of Uribe. That back end, those three, I'll say three, Mears, Uribe, and McGill, but I'll also throw Koenig in there because he's been pretty good. I don't know if I put him on the same level of the trust tree as the other three, but let's throw him in. That back end of the bullpen can be a huge strength for this team. It might even be the bus driver for the team, the elite back end bullpen. But they can't be that if they're overworked and they're overwhelmed. And we have evidence just over the last 2 weeks that when those guys are rested and on a nice little schedule, they can be elite. And when they're not rested, they can be just fine. Just fine is not really bad, but this Brewers team with their limitations, especially offensively, and some of their injuries or they're sliding things around in the starting pitching department, they need elite if they're going to be a team that gets back into the race for contention in the Central or for a wild card. But I'm not surprised that the back end of the bullpens looked good. So let's see. We're keeping track so far. Chourio and Yelich turning a corner. That's not surprising. It's not shocking. The bullpen holding it down. Not surprising. Not shocking. I think another big component of the sweep at home against Boston and against the Phillies in Philly, there were some gaffes made by both teams. Now, Boston, their vibes absolutely blow. And we talked about that last week. They're not a great defensive team. Philly is an excellent team. They just made some timely mistakes and gave the Brewers some opportunities to capitalize. But isn't that the whole point of getting guys on and stealing? Getting guys on and getting them over, putting the ball in play, forcing the defense to make a play. Like, I am not a full-born, born-again believer in Murphy ball and small ball, but I think it has its place. I think that Murphy brand of baseball is a great supplement to a team that hits for some power and slugs and then has good starting pitching and then also has a good bullpen. Like, I think it's a great pitch to have in your arsenal, the ability to put the ball in play and create havoc. I believe in that. I just believe in it the correct amount. Some people are like, bunts will save us. Like they're just completely born again, cleansed of all sins. Basically they'll like, we're a small ball team. I'm not that. Okay. I'm like a Christmas and Easter and maybe some holy days of obligation. Like that's my relationship. That's my belief in Murphy ball, but that's the perfect amount. And I think that amount put some pressure on Boston's defense and put some pressure on Philly's defense. So I can't just chalk up gaffes in the field to, well, the Brewers got lucky. I think sometimes they make a little bit of their own luck, right? With the bunts and the advancing of runners and the putting the ball in play and running and turning a single into a double and turning a walk into a stolen base to second. Like I think that stresses the opponent in a way that leads them to make some mistakes, puts them in a position where it's a little bit more likely that they'll make mistakes. So the last two sweeps, Boston and Philly, I think the three biggest components to both of those sweeps are Chourio and Yelich getting it going, the bullpen, especially the back end being elite, and Boston and Philly making some mistakes. And none of those things are shocking. None of those things are surprising. I think all of those things are repeatable. Like, I think this bullpen can be a force the rest of the year if they're managed correctly and if they get opportunities to rest. Chourio, assuming he doesn't take a pitch off his dong tonight, or Yelich, not Chourio. Yelich, assuming he doesn't take a pitch off somewhere else on his body tonight, should be able to continue producing. Chourio should be able to continue producing. I didn't even mention Contreras and Hoskins, but let's just keep it realistic and conservative with Chourio and Yelich. If they can keep it going, that's enough. That's a good start. That's a way to be better than they've been so far. And I do think the Brewers can put pressure on opponents in a way that makes them make some mistakes. So between those two bats getting going, the bullpen slamming the door, and Boston and Philly or other teams making mistakes in the field, I think all of that is replicable. I think that's repeatable. Not saying the Brewers are going to win 7 or 8 or 9 in a row, every other week the rest of the season. But we've seen the pieces over the last week that can win more games than just being 500 or a little bit worse. Like, this can be a team that's in the mix and playing a better brand of ball than we saw for the first 2 months. And that's a good step in the right direction. That's a good start. I don't really care what the Cubs have been doing or the Cardinals. The Brewers just got to be focused on their own thing right now, because I think they got an okay thing going. And I think those pillars that we've seen over the last week, that's not a smokescreen. That's not Fugazi. Like, that can be real. Now, if William Contreras starts to hit with some power on top of that, you know what I mean? Or Woodruff comes back and gives them anything. I want to talk about Woodruff in a little bit, because I have some theories and some ideas on maybe how they can bring Woodruff back into the mix, because they got a lot of redundancies. They got a lot of arms, and I'm trying to figure out, it's like, okay, so Savali's back, and Quintana is back, and Patrick's been good, and Freddie Peralta. It's like, okay, so where's Woodruff going to go? And if Woodruff goes, and then Nestor Cortez exists too. Like, there's a lot of pieces. And I'm starting to cook up some theories on maybe how to best use some of those pieces, including Brandon Woodruff. So I want to get into that. And I'll take your phone calls on the Brewers next as well at 608-321-1670. Your comments on the live stream as well. I want to get your thoughts and talk Brewers. They've won 7 in a row. Let's discuss next.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
the Wisco Sports Show. We are beginning tonight by talking about the Brewers. They've won 7 in a row. And I, again, to reiterate the point that I made about 15 minutes ago to begin tonight, I just think it's disgusting. So many people have been so negative about the Brewers this year. You know, taking shots at Joey Ortiz every chance they can. And Caleb Durbin, the front office. And that's not how I want to do my show. Just not how I want to operate. And people are pointing out on the live stream, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, that I have been very negative, and I can't even remember one time that I've done it. And again, no need to go back and check the podcast. In fact, Cinderella Man comments, what do you mean? Grant has never once ripped on the Brewers players or org. He's always been big time positive on the outlook for the crew. Thank you. I have been nothing but optimistic. I mean, geez, the season's barely started. It's just Memorial Day. So much negativity. I want to talk about the return of Brandon Woodruff and how he might fit into this Brewers pitching staff. They got a lot of guys. They have a surplus. Might make sense for them to trade some of these guys away, which sounds nuts because you can never have enough starting pitching, but they might have enough starting pitching. They might be an exception. 608-321-1670. Let's take some calls. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Grant.
Hey, Cone.
Pride Month.
Yeah, hey, happy Pride Month, Cone. Thank you for mentioning that. I forgot to mention that in the first segment of the show. Happy Pride Month to you as well.
You're not the only one. I noticed the Brewers have not released a rainbow logo yet. Read into that as you will. But
Evo and I were talking about that this morning because I went back and looked. They retweeted the Major League Baseball tweet with the logo. I feel like that's a good, very simple gesture. I don't need the produced video or the thing, although I have nothing against Pride Month. It's just so interesting how all these teams choose to do something or don't do something and then how everyone reacts. It is kind of interesting to follow.
It really is. And, on the topic of pride, I'm very happy, very prideful of my Brewers over this weekend series. Won some money on them and just, great baseball. I mean, Reese Hoskins coming alive. We were kind of counting on a bounce back season from him. And, if he keeps this up, let's go. We got a first baseman.
Yeah, it's taken how many years since Prince Fielder, but it feels, and he's been hitting for average, which has never been his player profile, but then he uncorks 2 home runs the other day. It's like, okay, well, if we can get the good at bats and a little power, there might be something here. I can't tell you how much fun it was, Cone, to just sit back on Saturday and watch the Brewers open a can in a game I knew they were going to win. Because previously, when I'd been listening to the Brewers, they hang like 4 runs on a team. And the announcers are like, and they've broken it open. The floodgates are like, no, 17 runs is breaking it open. That's, I don't know. Saturday felt good in a way that a Brewers game really hasn't felt good this season. So just from an enjoyment factor, I think you're right.
Yep. Now we got the longest homestand starting here, I think, or after the Red Series, longest homestand of the season. So Brewers get some home cooking. Vinny Capra, big things coming from him.
Yeah, I bet. Thank you, Cone. It's a good call. And thank you for mentioning Pride Month. Yes, I appreciate that. The Brewers do start a set with the Reds tonight, 3 games. And I think the pregame might start around 5:30 on some of our affiliates because I think it's a 6:10 first pitch. So if you're listening on WK2I in La Crosse or Sports Talk 105.1 up in Eau Claire, be ready to switch over to the live stream or listen on the WOZN, the Zone Madison app, wherever you consume the show when it's not coming over the air on the radio. Just be prepared for that for hour number 2. Darnell the Chump, I believe this is sarcastic, and I don't appreciate the tone. Tweets at per Wisco Grant. Baseball teams are at their best when they have good bullpens, starting pitching, they hit for power, and play small ball. So what? You're saying that my opening segment was just stating the obvious? You listen here, Darnell, okay? And you listen closely. I guess that is what I was saying if you want to look at it that way. My point was, let's look at the things that have gone right for the Brewers over the last week, right? Let's talk about the 2 or 3 most important things in their recent winning streak. I think Chourio and Yelich getting it going is thing number 1. My point is, that's not outlandish. That's probably replicable. They could probably continue to do that. Another thing that went their way, the bullpen operating at a really high level. And I thought it came to fruition yesterday, most of all, because of the length they got from DL Hall and Quinn Priester on Friday, we got to see McGill, Uribe, Koenig, and Mears fully rested. And it had been a while. And wow, did it make a difference. Like, did you watch those innings yesterday? Those guys looked like they were pitching at a higher level. And if the Brewers can continue to manage them and Pat Murphy can continue to keep them as rested as possible, that's replicable too. That could continue to be a thing. And I pointed out some of the miscues and mistakes that Boston made. Kristen Campbell throwing the ball basically to the backstop, right, in extras the other day, or Trey Turner booting a ground ball at shortstop, these types of things. I understand the Brewers benefited and got a little lucky there, but also a team like the Brewers that puts the ball in play and moves runners over and turns walks into steals, singles into doubles, all these things. I believe even like a little, as mostly a skeptic of small ball, that like that's putting pressure on a defense. You know what I mean? So if the Brewers put the ball in play and do all of these things that, we've seen them kind of preach under Pat Murphy, like, can't you factor in some mistakes by the other team? I think so. Here's Pat Murphy kind of hinting at that idea and talking about their relentless style of
If
play.
you want to be a good team, you got to stay relentless throughout the game and look for opportunities. Every pitch counts, really does. Every out, 2 outs, nobody on. We got to play defense and we got to base run and we got to keep base running even after we get thrown out.
Is he under the weather? He sounds sick, by the way. He sounds like Herb Brooks.
Look for opportunities. Every
Opportunities. Sounds voice is a little worn out. 608-321-1670. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Evening, Grant.
Tim.
from Sparta
Hey,
here.
Tim. I'll be passing through your neck of the woods just a little bit later this evening. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, that's what I hear. I finally thought I was going to be able to go to one of Bill's cigar dinners, and no tickets left. So by the time that I got to him, so
I think he might have another one later this summer.
I hope so.
I think so. I'll let you know, or actually I'll have Ebo let you know, because I feel like you talk to Ebo in the morning probably more often than you talk to me.
Well, some weeks.
I suppose you.
But anyway, I wanted to call up and ask: did you become Colin Cowherd there for a minute in that opening test? Section? Because you sure sounded like him there for a little bit.
Oh, are you saying that I'm going back on something that I said previously?
Well, possibly, but as long as you can maintain plausible deniability, it's a great way to live your life. It's been successful for me for 70 years.
Yeah, well, it's my show. I can revise the history of my show any way that you want to, or any way that I want to, don't you think?
Absolutely. But I just wanted to say, the next time that the Brewers, and there will be probably not long in coming, that they go on another extended streak of sucking.
Yeah.
I don't want to have all these people that are flip-flopping and, they've got everything worked out. They are at best an average team this year. They need to find somebody that can hit on a consistent basis. Their pitching has been remarkable for what they've started, with. I think your bullpen rants have been absolutely on mark.
Well, and it matters because didn't those guys look like they were just pitching at a higher level yesterday when we know that they had a little rest? Like, it makes a difference.
Yeah, absolutely. You cannot keep dragging the same arms out there day after day after day after day and expect them to perform. That's just, unless you're on the juice. And hopefully we don't have anybody on the juice anymore. So
yeah, that's true. I suppose they could use.
Anyway,
yeah, Tim. I appreciate
you have a great rest of your night. But I loved your opening. Like I said, reminded me a little bit of Colin there. So as long as it doesn't happen too often, I'll keep it.
A little comic relief every once in a while. You got to let me wiggle out of previous takes. Not every day. I mean, I've complained about the Brewers a ton, because they've played a lot of really sucky baseball. Joey Ortiz has sucked to start the year until recently. Caleb Durbin, I probably was a little harsher to the guy than I needed to be when he first came up. But I don't know. I just didn't really believe in him. What do you want me to? I'm still not sure that I believe in him. What do you want me to say? The Brewers, you talk about maybe needing a bat. That's something that came up on Bill's show earlier today. I think they have a surplus of arms and they have a slight dearth of good bats. Because up until this last weekend, Daz Cameron had barely played. Jake Bauers has barely played. Like, their 10th or 11th bats, like, those guys just haven't been used a ton. And I think the Brewers would find ways to use a 10th or an 11th bat if their 10th or 11th bat wasn't Daz Cameron or Jake Bauers. And Jake Bauers has had some nice moments. But if they could get one more outfielder, and don't tell me, well, when Garrett Mitchell gets healthy, man, I don't care. Because even when Garrett Mitchell's been healthy, he hasn't been that good. He strikes out too much. And he's got huge holes in the zone that he can't hit high fastballs. He can't. He worked on it all offseason. He still can't do it. So when he comes back, defensive replacement, pinch runner, sure. Yeah, if there's a spot for him, he can be Daz Cameron, but Daz Cameron really isn't playing that much. Or he wasn't until Saturday and Sunday, I suppose. What they need is like a 2017 Domingo Santana, a guy who's not really going to hit for average, doesn't really need to be a defensive ace, but can you just crank some bombs every once in a while? Like, that's who they need as their extra outfielder. They need good Domingo Santana, 2017 Domingo Santana, something or somebody like that. And they might be able to trade from their surplus of starting pitching to do it. Maybe they should. We could talk about that on the other side. Nick on the live stream says, Bill's been way harsher on Durbin than you, Grant. I don't know. I don't know about all that. I don't know. I don't know that to be true. I've complained about Caleb Durbin quite a bit. The Sal Frelick of this season. I'm all the way back in on Sal. Sal might be my favorite Brewer right now. But I'd argue that's because the Brewers have like 3 or 4 really crummy hitters that they didn't have last year. So it's just a lesson in perspective, I suppose. When we come back, I want to talk about the Brewers' surplus of pitching and how maybe they can deal from that surplus to get something that they need, another bat, maybe some outfield depth. I also have an idea on how the Brewers can best use Brandon Woodruff, and we could talk about that when he gets healthy when we come back on the Wisco Sports Show.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Bill Michaels here. Are your 2 wheels revved up? Because here it comes. The Big River Rally where the river meets the road. It rolls into La Crosse on June 27th and 28th. Join us for a weekend packed with action. Stunt shows, a killer bike show, food trucks, all kinds of awesome vendors. Friday, Rod's River Run with Texas Hippie Coalition lighting up the stage that night. Then Saturday, it's the Big River Rally Ride. Miles and miles of pure freedom. Then Saturday night, Drowning Pool rocks the house. Grab your tickets right now. BigRiverRally.com. That's BigRiverRally.com, and I'll see you there.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 5 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 4 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
Wisco Sports Show, continuing to talk Brewers, and I'll continue to take your calls if you're interested. 608-321-1670, couple of empty lines. Grab them if you want. You won't have to wait very long. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday of this week, I will be unable to take your calls. So if there's something you want to get off your chest, it's got to be today. Otherwise, you're going to be typing it or commenting it on the live stream, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. So this is our last chance until later this week to chat on the phone. So I'd love to take your calls. 608-321-1670, talking about the Brewers' recent successes. I am curious, very curious about what comes next for Brandon Woodruff and what comes next for the Brewers. This rotation, as it stands right now, has been pretty darn solid. And if I was the Brewers, I would not have a large appetite to change it. Peralta definitely stays as your number one, although what a pissy effort in his last outing, but that's whatever. They've won 7 in a row. No need to complain. Priester just came off of his best outing of the year on Friday. I didn't know that guy had that in him. That was unbelievable. Chad Patrick has been very, very, very good, and I would not move him. Quintana can be the lefty, and although his stuff isn't elite and he's not an ace, I trust him as much as I trust just about anybody on the roster. I would not move him. Savali is fine. I would rather have Logan Henderson, but we have decided that we're not going to do that. So between Peralta, Priester, Patrick, Quintana, and Savali, you have a full starting rotation and no obvious guy to kick to the curb with which to replace Brandon Woodruff. I think Woodruff has earned an opportunity to come back and be a starter. That opportunity could be very short-lived, but I think he's earned that opportunity. I wonder how cutthroat the Brewers will be and how mechanical they will be in giving him that opportunity, or I guess denying him that opportunity if the Brewers really are that ruthless and are like, look, we like our options. Your velocity is dropped, and we don't feel like we want to turn over the apple cart in our rotation to give you a chance. Maybe the Brewers do that. I don't know. If there was anybody that they were going to turn over the apple cart for, I'd wager it'd be Brandon Woodruff, but I guess we'll see. Outside of the starting rotation, I lump Aaron Ashby and DL Hall in a group together as not starters, and I'm okay with them not being starters, but they can be used as openers with great success, as we saw on Friday from DL Hall, leading into Quinn Priester, or you can use them as piggybackers, right? So if we start Savali and we only expect him to be able to throw 4 or 5 high-level innings tops, well, then let's try to line up DL Hall or Aaron Ashby's day with Savali, right? And use those guys on days where we don't feel great about length from our starter to kind of bridge from 5th inning to 7th or 8th inning, right? Let's say that. So your rotation is Peralta, Priester, Patrick, Quintana, Savali. The next tier of guys in your pitching room, let's say, is Ashby and DL Hall. On the outside looking in, either injured or in the minors, are Brandon Woodruff, Nestor Cortez, who we can set him to the side for now, but Nestor Cortez is important in the idea that if you're going to trade someone now, you could eventually replace that person, right, with Cortez later. He doesn't really help us in the here and now, but he aids us in conversations based around how to, maybe navigate this thing. Logan Henderson is down there. Up until recently, I thought in his limited action, he had been the Brewers' best starter, but they want to preserve his options for next year or just hold off. I guess more specifically, preserve Priester's options and instead option Henderson. And Tobias Myers is down there too, for whatever it's worth. I don't believe that Brandon Woodruff best serves the team in a starting role right now. I'm not sure that he is great as a long reliever either, because his velocity dropped. And if he's pitching less or smaller outings, like I don't know that I don't know that his current situation coming off an injury lends itself particularly well to long relief either. Let's put it that way. There is no role in the rotation currently for him. I think it would make great sense for him to be a long reliever. Once upon a time, I believed the same of Freddie before he had really established himself as a starter, but Freddie had velocity. Like, he could dial it up. If someone like Ashby or DL Hall is instead of trying to go 5 innings, only trying to go 2, well, then they can max their effort out a little bit more. And we saw that last year with Aaron Ashby. Getting healthy sure was a big part of it, but I reckon that he knew coming back that I'm going to be asked to be a reliever. I'm not asked to go as long, so I'm going to crank up my effort a little bit. I'm going to crank up my velocity a little bit. Brandon Woodruff, coming off the shoulder injury, has less velocity, although he did find a little bit in his last rehab outing. But I guess I'm saying all that to say this. I'm not sure where Brandon Woodruff's home is eventually. Unless you want to trade Aaron Savali, which I would be fine with, I would try to trade Aaron Savali and whatever else to try to get some sort of a bat. And then still I might put Logan Henderson in his spot, because I still probably like Logan Henderson more than Brandon Woodruff at this moment in time. This is the problem with Quintana and Woodruff coming back into the fold after being injured. If you go look at the starts, the line by line of Logan Henderson's action so far, 5 innings, lots of strikeouts, no walks, almost no runs. 6 innings, lots of strikeouts, almost no walks, almost no runs. Like, I don't know if Woodruff can come in and do that right away as a starter. I don't know if Woodruff can come in after missing the better part of a year and change and instantly give you at least 5 innings, at least 6 innings, lots of strikeouts, almost no walks, and almost no runs. You know what I mean? That's what Logan Henderson has been. I don't know if Brandon Woodruff immediately comes back and gives you that. I think Quintana basically did the other day. When Quintana was struggling with command early, I thought, oh boy, here we go. Now I'm going to have to bitch and whine about how we're bringing back Quintana instead of just keeping Logan Henderson around. But he turned out to actually throw a pretty good start. He is a true pitcher, not just a thrower, which is why I do like him as a bottom of the rotation guy, especially as a lefty. But I don't know where Brandon Woodruff's home is. I don't know where he fits. I would expect the Brewers to give him an opportunity to come back and start, because if anyone's earned that opportunity and anyone is owed that opportunity, it's probably Brandon Woodruff. But then again, the Brewers paid him a lot. So if the Brewers want to go to Woodruff and be like, look, we don't have a spot for you in the rotation right now, what about long relief? Or what if they just tell him, like, we don't have a spot for you right now, you're just going to have to wait? Woodruff probably wouldn't be happy, but then again, the Brewers are paying him a lot of money to not pitch. They paid him a lot of money last year to not pitch. They're currently paying him a lot of money to not pitch. So the Brewers would have that to say if they wanted to. Jay Krebs says, I wouldn't trade anyone besides old dudes who aren't part of the future. If the Brewers are as high as it sounds on the young bats and arms in the minors, I wouldn't do anything. Well, that's why Savali is interesting. I think there's some redundancy there. I think Patrick, set it and forget it in that rotation. Priester after Friday, I'm intrigued and I want to see more. Priester's been fine. I just don't know if you can count on consistency and length and control. He just loses the zone sometimes. But the presence of Ashby and DL Hall as potential openers or piggyback guys make a Quinn Priester start a lot more palatable, right? Or even make a Chad Patrick start a lot more tolerable and interesting. Would Brandon Woodruff fit in that group where it's like, all right, we're ready to throw Quinn Priester today because we know we have Brandon Woodruff ready and waiting to throw 2, maybe 3 innings if he gets humming as a middle relief guy. Then again, his velocity isn't where DL Hall or Aaron Ashby's velocity is. His velocity is taken a step back since the injury, which typically doesn't. Once you start to lose velocity, you typically don't throw shorter sessions. You know what I mean? Like, it's when you throw shorter sessions, Aaron Ashby last year, where you crank up effort and velocity. So, man, I don't know. This is a puzzle. And I have all the names written out. Peralta, Priester, Patrick, Quintana, Savale. Ashby and DL Hall are then the 2 long relief or opener options. And then you have this group of Brandon Woodruff, Nestor Cortez, Logan Henderson, and Tobias Myers, guys who are available or would be available at some point. And I just don't know how they make that fit. You might have to get rid of someone. Or you should get rid of. I mean, I think Logan Henderson should be up here right now, but I'm going to stop beating that dead horse. Couple calls here. 608-321-1670. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
This is the Bronze Boomer.
Hey, what's up, Pete?
Who is happy to hear you talking about baseball. I mean, any time that we can get away from, will the Packers go to the Super Bowl?
Well, will they? That's a good tip. Maybe we should talk about that next.
Okay, well then I'll be watching MSNBC anyway.
Sure.
The Brewers, like I told the morning show, the Brewers have won me over. They can scratch and claw and bite and every once in a while hit a home run. And okay, I can go with it. I don't know how that will do against a top team in a long playoff series, but it might get them into the playoffs. And given that they're the 24th ranked team in terms of salary, that's pretty good. What I called to say was that I disagree with you. You cannot have enough pitching. I just lost, and so did the Arizona Diamondbacks, a $35 million a year pitcher, and they didn't have any, and the team doesn't have any other pitching anyway. They'd love to have the pitching that the Brewers have. So leave it alone, because in this day and age, elbow and shoulder blowouts and lat tears are, they're endemic. So you cannot have enough pitching. And if that means that somebody has to come back off the injured list and pitch 4 innings and give it all he's got, fine, because that's you just can't have enough, because of the injuries to pitching are well documented. So that's what I had to say. Leave it, go with length over strength.
All right. No, and I look, Pete, I think there's so much truth to the couple points that you made about pitching. 99% of the time, I would agree you can't have enough pitching. Is this 1% of the times where maybe, and look, and I'm not telling you that every guy is amazing. I'm not sitting here telling you, what? The Brewers have the best and deepest starting rotation in baseball. That's not what I'm saying. They have a lot of guys who are fine, and a lot of fine guys with a high-level bullpen and an offense and defense, base running, all the other things, that can get you through a season just fine. I'm wondering if this is one of those 1% of the times it's like maybe they actually have a little bit more than they need. Look, if they don't touch it, they're fine. Okay, they have depth, they have insurance against injuries. I don't think that's a wrong move. I'm wondering if the slightly more right move might be to trade one of these options, get a little offense back in return, because then you have 3 or 4 options either on the mend or in the minors waiting as options down the road. 608-321-1670. One more call. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Hey, it's Darnell. You're really beating the what it takes to win in baseball. A great bullpen, great starters, great offense, making sure that your people can play defense. All very important things.
This is ridiculous. You're missing the forest. You're staring right at a tree trunk and you're missing the entire forest, Darnell. This is disappointing from a high level caller like you. I know what
no.
I'm saying comes across as like, yeah, just hit the ball really good and have a good bullpen. But I'm talking specifically about the Brewers. Like Churio and Yelich can keep doing this. Their bullpen, if they get their rest, can keep doing this. Like these are not. I don't think this is some fake week of successful baseball. I think they can continue to play at a level that's not that far off from this. That's my point.
Yeah, no, I get it. I'm trying to give you a little bit of flack there.
Disgusting.
Here's the thing, though. It's really easy, and from experience, it's really, really easy to pitch when you got a big lead, right? Like it's the pressure of pitching in a one-run ball game is so much different than, if you're Chad Patrick, you can go 6 innings of 2-run ball.
Yeah.
When your guys are getting you 12, 13 runs, when they're getting you, 8 runs, 7 runs even, right? If you get a huge lead, you're like, okay, well, I can make a mistake here and it's not going to be that big of a deal, right? Then it just kind of snowballs from there. And you saw the whole weekend, they get out to little leads that turn into bigger leads. And then all of a sudden, in the 8th inning on Sunday, they had a 4-run lead all of a sudden. And then our pitchers are like, all right, well, we can do 4 runs. That's not a problem. It's just like, that's where I like to see, I've really liked where they've gone. Like the high pressure situations don't seem as high pressure when you have a little bit of wiggle room, right? And they just didn't have that at all in the first 2 months, and they finally kind of gave themselves a little bit of breathing room the last couple of weeks. So let's keep it going.
No, and I agree, and that's why Saturday, and Cone brought this up, that's why Saturday felt so therapeutic. It's like you blew the doors off a team to the point where the game was not losable. It's like everyone could take a breath, and we could save some arms. And that was really in part due to, the way the series started with DL Hall and Quinn Priester. God, that was huge for the bullpen. And then the offense scoring 17 runs. If you can spare your bullpen 2 times a week, 3 times a week, and the Brewers just haven't been able to do that because even their wins have been close and most of their losses recently have been close. They just haven't had a lot of games like Friday or Saturday where they can rest the bullpen and they can just kind of take a couple of innings off. It's huge. It's just not something they've been able to do. So from a performance standpoint, correct, Darnell. It's a lot easier to pitch when you can score 17 runs. It's also huge for resting your players mentally, physically. It's just a nice reset. And the Brewers haven't had nearly enough of those games since early in the season, but they were always on the wrong side of those games, and Jake Bauers was pitching. Let's take a quick break. We'll come back. 3 minutes, wrap up hour number 1 of the Wisco Sports Show next.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
Wisco Sports Show, presented by Road America. IndyCar is coming. So make sure you get all the information, get your tickets, get everything settled up. If you're going to be camping, or whether it's the RV, the tent. Every time I bring up camping at Road America, the live stream lights up, and there's always a couple people like, oh, camping there is the best. It's the best. That's always, and it comes up on Bill's show too. People love camping up there. And it's someone who hates camping. That's interesting to me. Because maybe I just haven't been camping right. Maybe there is a place in the world where camping isn't totally awful. But that's just me. A lot of people, when you get the nice RV, maybe that's the problem, is I'm sleeping in a tent and I'm always too lazy to pack a sleeping mat. That's probably my problem. But if you go to roadamerica.com, their schedule of events for the summer, everything they have going on specifically with IndyCar in the next couple of weeks, whether it be qualifying or the main event or whatever's going on. roadamerica.com for all of your information. I know Bill is going to be up there broadcasting live, so bringing you some of the sights and sounds. But if it's not for IndyCar, then the Superbikes or the Sunset Cruises or the driving schools, it doesn't have to be some crazy wall-to-wall event. You could go up there for something much more laid back. So check out their events calendar and just peruse. See what jumps out to you. roadamerica.com. It's certainly worth mentioning today that Lions center Frank Ragnow is retiring. So they lost Kevin Zeitler and Frank Ragnow, who were both top 3, top 5 players probably at their respective positions, which isn't going to make the Lions go in the tank. But that, coupled with 2 new coordinators, with this, that, right? We're just looking at all the offseason moving pieces. I think the Lions will continue to be badasses, and they'll continue to have the culture and the ethos and the approach that Dan Campbell's had throughout. I don't think that's going anywhere. I do wonder, without Ben Johnson, and I mentioned this on Friday, can you come up with the 2 or 3 fourth down plays every game that you need? Because Ben Johnson was a wizard at that. It's 4th and 4, we're going for it, and I have the perfect play. It's 4th and goal, we're going to get 7 instead of 3 because I have the perfect play. Will the new offensive coordinator be able to do that? Because even if he can continue to run the ball, which gets harder without your superstar center and with Zeitler, like even if you can continue to run the ball and make some nice plays in the passing game, there were so many Lions games last year. It's 4th and 4. Gotta have it. Huge pivotal moment in the game. And Ben Johnson would dial it up. So we can talk a little bit about another Lions loss and how that impacts the NFC North and the Packers. But I mostly want to keep talking about the Brewers. And Jesse Temple going to join us to wrap up the show around 5:35 as well, to talk about his new venture and the latest with offseason recruiting news for the Badgers. So hour number 2 of the Wisco Sports Show coming up next. First, a 2-minute update. No commercials. It's Zach Heilprin.
This is a Wisconsin Sports Zone update.
Well, Christian Yelich is in the lineup tonight for the Brewers after all. That comes after he was forced to leave yesterday's finale in Philadelphia when he got hit on his hand while batting. Yelich batting 4th, will DH. Manager Pat Murphy had said yesterday that he expected Yelich to maybe miss a day, but that ended up not happening. In Milwaukee, will send Aaron Savale to the mound tonight. He's coming off a really nice outing against Boston last week. Gave up 1 run on 3 hits over 5 innings of work for the season. 0-1 with a 6 ERA. Reds counter with Brady Singer. He mashed his longest outing of the year last week against Kansas City, going 7 innings, allowing just 2 runs. But he had a 6.39 ERA in the month of May. Overall, 6-3 with a 4.60 ERA. Crew comes into the night having won 7 in a row, their longest winning streak since winning 9 straight in August of 2023. It has them sitting in 3rd place in the NL Central, 1.5 games back of 2nd place St. Louis, and 5.5 games back of the 1st place Cubs. First pitch is coming up at 6:10.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
They believe in protecting the families and children in our farming communities. Kids love to be included in the daily farm activities, but accidents can happen quickly. Reduce the chance of injury by making sure your farm is a safe environment for adults and kids. Learn more at ruralmutual.com.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
Well, it was a big recruiting weekend for Wisconsin. Had more than a dozen prospects in town for official visits, and it resulted in 3 commitments already. That includes 3-star linebacker Ben Wenzel out of Appleton and 3-star defensive lineman Arthur Scott from Ohio. And the Packers are into week 2 of their OTAs, going to hold a practice tomorrow that is open to the media. They've got just a mandatory minicamp next week to close out their offseason program. With this Wisconsin Sports Zone Network update, I'm Zach Heil, Print.
If you want to be a good team, you got to stay relentless throughout the game and look for opportunities. Every pitch counts, really does. Every out, 2 outs, nobody on. We got to play defense, and we got to base run, and we got to keep base running even after we get thrown out.
This is where Wisconsin gathers to talk sports. Packers, Brewers, Badgers, Bucks. The Wisco Sports Show is on the air. Now, here's your host, Grant Bills.
Hour number 2 of the Wisco Sports Show presented by Road America. Hope you had a great weekend. Jesse Temple going to be here in a half hour. Talk about his new venture as he is no longer with the Athletics. Seems pretty exciting. I'll let him explain, and we could talk about some of the recent recruiting goings on, some of the things that have happened in recruiting, and also some fun news with Badgers basketball. John Blackwell pulling out of the NBA draft process, but also a couple of games announced at Fiserv Forum, which is interesting. We'll pick Jesse's brain on that as well. But in the meantime, talking a little bit about the NFC North, the Lions losing Frank Ragnow to retirement at age 29 in offseason. They already lost Zeitler and a couple coordinators. Packers fans were trying to speak into existence. A little bit of brain drain, a little bit of fall off from Detroit, team that's been dominating the division. And of course, the Brewers have won 7 in a row. So we're continuing to talk about that as well. Your calls at 608-321-1670. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Eric on I-90.
Good evening, Eric on I-90. How are you?
I'm good.
Good.
You don't like to camp, Grant?
It's just not my thing. I love being outside. But when it comes time for sleepy time, I want to be in a house with air conditioning. And I want to take a shower before I sleep.
Well, I'm going camping right now. I'm going camping right this minute.
With a camper? RV?
Yeah.
Tent?
Little camper.
Okay.
Little camper. I've got air conditioning, 2 recliners.
Oh.
She set up pretty nice.
Yeah. Maybe if I camped like that more often, I would like it.
You would, Grant. I think you'd like it a lot. And you'd go fishing in the morning and all that kind of stuff.
Oh. You
nice.
Going down to the district to camp, or you going up north?
No, I've got a secret lair, kind of middle of the state, in a campground seasonal spot that I stay in.
A secret lair.
Shortens my drive to work.
I like that. All right, I know you're a commuter. Well, what do you think? Baseball, Packers, what's on your mind?
Let's talk about Packer Nation.
Okay.
And your recent just that little just that little take you had on the Detroit Lions. And I heard Rob Reichel talking last week, and it sounds like Packer Nation have pinned all their hopes on everybody else getting worse.
So, well, I suppose when you put it that way, that might be true. Yeah, we might be doing that.
Right.
Is that loser behavior? I hadn't thought about it. Might be.
Well, I'm surprised. I'm totally surprised by this whole group. You're normally a lot more upbeat than this. I need.
Well, we're normally in denial that there's any other good teams. It's like, those teams suck. We're just so blind to it all. But the Vikings and the Lions have been that good. Where, I guess now we're just figuring out ways where the other teams are going to get worse. Damn, you cut me deep here, Eric.
Well, it was just an observation. It's probably not true.
No,
but
I think it is.
I think it is. All right. Well, that's all I had to say, Grant.
It's a good take, Eric.
All right, bud.
Enjoy
good
camping and possibly see you at Flipside at some point this week. I will be there on Wednesday, by the way, 4 to 6 on La Crosse's north side, just across from Menards. Very easy to find. Come in for happy hour after work. Stop by, say hello, get some food. Doesn't have to be a whole thing. I'm just going to be doing the show there. It's not like there's a stage and a whole thing. It's just, we're just hanging out doing the show because I'm traveling with Bill to La Crosse. He'll be at Flipside tomorrow from 10 to 2. So come and get that breakfast. They're doing 6 days a week now. Early morning happy hour, 8 to 10, so you get the 2-for-1s. Now then you might have to go to work with a couple of pops in you. It's not a problem. If you come to my show, Bill's show, you might have to get a little bit creative or just have a virgin Bloody Mary or a virgin mimosa. What do they call that again? Orange juice. That's right. So, Eric, maybe I'll see you in La Crosse. Good point about Packers fans, by the way. I hadn't really thought about it. We've talked plenty about the Packers getting better as I rack my brain. We've had plenty of takes like Jaden Reed, Dontavian Wicks, year 3. Matthew Golden, what does he add? Matt LaFleur, what does he do? So we have had conversations about how the Packers can get better. The pass rush, definitely talked about that corner. But Eric is not wrong that we have spent a lot of our time talking about how other teams are getting worse or how they could get worse or how we think they will get worse. The Lions, for sure. The Vikings, yeah. And I think most folks' argument with the Vikings is, well, J.J. McCarthy's a first-year starter, which is true. But last year we said the same thing about Sam Darnold, and then he proved to be very good, and the Vikings proved to be very good. So now a year later, our argument is, well, this quarterback will actually stink? I don't know. It's a good call, Eric. Gave me something to think about at night. When I go to sleep in an air-conditioned house or an apartment, not in a tent or a camper, although I'm happy that you have that, Eric, and I will not take it away from you. 608-321-1670, another call. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Eric.
Eric.
A tipped field goal away from going 0-6 in the division.
We were.
Like, if you want to ask, like, why aren't Packer fans as upbeat as we normally are? We needed a blocked field goal to prevent ourselves from going 0-6 against this division. Of course, we're hoping that they're worse.
That is true.
And plus, I think a couple of things, Grant. Think back to last year. We were all fired up. Everybody here was really fired up to move on to a new defensive coordinator. We were excited about that. We brought in Xavier McKinney. We knew he was going to be a stud, right? He was a stud in New York. And we brought in Josh Jacobs. So I think last year going into the season, we had 3 big elements of this team that we were like, a little sad to see Aaron Jones go away. But we knew Josh Jacobs was bringing bully ball. And we knew Xavier McKinney was a stud at one of our weakest positions last offseason, right? I think the way you talk about corner this year, or maybe even edge, was the way that we talked about the safety position, because that was a rotating house of cards for a number of years there. So I think going into last year, we had a lot more reasons. The front office gave us a lot more to think about in terms of positivity. But Grant, that's kind of my take on the Packers. Real quick, listener and listener violence. Darnell, man, it was like, I love it when people try to dunk on Grant, right? I try to once in a while. I try to bring up an old man take. But Darnell in that phone call was like the 36-year-old dad at the YMCA really trying to go up for a left-handed layup. And it's just like he totally forgot. He just went up with the wrong leg, wrong hand, missed wide off, didn't even hit the rim. Because you can't come at Grant for being like, hey, if you're good at everything in baseball, your team's going to be good. I
gave you 3 things that they were good at over the last week, and one of them wasn't even them. It was the other teams messing up. So, like,
hey,
that's not even what I said.
I know, but just, entertain it for a second. Even if that was correct, you can't follow that with, it's easier to pitch when you're up 10 runs.
That's true.
You can't try to dunk on Grant for something that he may or may not have said. I'm not the judge here, right? I'm the jury.
Mm-hmm.
All I know is you certainly can't follow it up with, it's easier to pitch up 10. But yeah, that's really all I got. Only other thing, I might be oversharing, but even when I'm working from home, I'll go 2-3 days without a shower. So tent camping, definitely in the wheelhouse. Don't need AC, don't need a shower. Let's get 30. Let's roll around to the bus.
Let's get to it. All right, and that's fine. Vagabond John, I appreciate it. Darnell, I enjoyed his call. I thought he gave us some good points, although I don't know what the aggression was for, but I enjoyed it. Makes for good entertainment. 1 minute on camping. I will be outside all day. I'll be outside from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. or even earlier or even later. It's just when it comes time to get my rest for the day, I want to be in a bed and I want to be clean. I don't want to be laying wherever I'm sleeping. I don't want to lay down and feel the stink of the day. You know what I mean? Like, it's happened a good amount throughout my life where I've gotten in bed, I've tried to go to sleep, can't do it, go take a shower. I can just feel it. I can feel it on my body. So that's part of it. It's just really difficult to regulate your temperature when you're sleeping outside. It's really difficult to avoid sweating. That's my problem. So it's almost as much of a shower thing as it is a camping thing. I just get anxiety. I'm not an anxious person. And I think anxiety in today's day and age has become like a real medical thing. I have anxiety. It's something that I've been I have prescribed medications for to control it. I don't want to say I get anxious. I have a really hard time shutting down my body and sleeping when I'm in a tent. And let's be real, most camping sites, here's another problem with camping. You are either camping in a campground where there are lots of other people, meaning through this tent wall that I can't see out, very nearby, there are other people. There's people around, and they could walk right up to my tent. I would have no idea if they did it quietly. So that's a problem. I struggle to sleep. You're either camping in that setting, or the last time I camped, it was in the middle of nowhere in Montana, the true middle of nowhere. No cell service, no nothing. And that weirds me out for other reasons. You would think like, oh, it's great to get off the grid. It's great that I don't get any texts and I don't have to. Well, yeah, but then I cannot connect to my loved ones. And that becomes if they're not with me. And last time I went camping, they were not. And I don't like that. I don't enjoy that. So it's either I'm camping and there's too many people around, or I'm camping and there's not enough people around. And you would say, well, Grant, camp somewhere else. But then why am I camping? If I'm not camping in the mountains somewhere, or I'm not camping at a campground, then I'll just stay in a hotel or in my apartment. Like that, we've reached the conclusion, which is just sleep in a bed. That's always where I end up. I would just rather do that. Love being outside. The first moment I get up, I'll go right outside. And I'll stay outside till the moment I want to go to bed. But when sleepy time comes, I would prefer to be inside. Thank you very much. If you want more rants like this one, by the way, the Monday mailbag is wide open for your submissions. Please email grantbills21@gmail.com. A couple of texts here. John in Fall Creek says, Nestor Cortez is not coming back. Guarantee he's having Tommy John. Didn't he strain his hand? What did he strain, though? I didn't think it was anything related to his arm. What was he put on the IL for? Normally I'd be all the way down to assume the worst, and I assumed the worst with Nestor Cortez right away. The Hialeah kid, but I thought it was his hamstring. Oh, it was an elbow strain. This is so Brewers. I'm on MLB.com. The last news story for Nestor Cortez. Cortez, parentheses, elbow strain, lands on 15-day IL, calls concern level, quote, pretty low. What day is it? Hold on. He ended up on the 60-day. So you were right. I was wrong. It was elbow related. I thought it was a hamstring for some reason. Duck and Holman says maybe the Brewers could trade some of their pitching for sand. Funny enough joke. Slightly overplayed, but I'll allow it. He also says, I don't camp anymore since I moved into my new cardboard box. Okay. Yeah. I'd camp in a campground before I camp in a cardboard box. I think another issue is when I've gone camping historically, I like camping light. I like packing light. So I just bring the bare minimum, which means I can't sleep because I'm sleeping on gravel or I'm sleeping in the back of a truck without a mat, and then I'm cold. But I prefer to be cold, but now I'm cold and I feel sweaty. So it's an issue. It's something that I can work through without talking about it on the radio. When we come back, I want to talk a little bit more about the Brewers, a couple final Packers takes, and then we're going to get to Jesse Temple at 5:30. We'll conclude the show. Plenty of time to get to the Monday mailbag. However, submit your questions. GrantBills21@gmail.com.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
Wisco Sports Show, Jesse Temple coming up in about 10 minutes. The Monday mailbag to conclude the show. Submit your questions on anything. GrantBills21 at gmail.com. Mondays on the Wisco Sports Show presented by Road America. You can look at their event schedule for the rest of the summer. Purchase tickets, reserve camping, whatever you need to do at roadamerica.com. We've been talking about camping a little bit. Clemhead Mike makes an interesting point on the live stream. Says, I'm with you on camping. Most campgrounds are full of loud drunks. Well, that's the other thing. And this is why I actually think Wisconsin is great. We don't feel the need to do things or go places in order to get drunk. We can just get drunk if we want to get drunk at home, at the bar. Anytime I've gone to concerts elsewhere around the country, and I haven't done it a ton, but I've been to a concert. I've been to 2 concerts in California. I've been to 3 or 4 of them in Montana. I've been to one in Arizona. I think that's it. A couple in Chicago, but I think Chicago, there's a lot of overlap. Other places around the country, I always feel like, well, we're going to go to a concert, get hammered. It's like, okay, but what about those of us who are actually like, we actually just want to go to the concert and we'll have some drinks, but like, this is not our escape. We don't need a license to go get drunk. That's why Wisconsin is great. If you want to drink, just go do it. It's its own thing. It's an activity that's widely accepted. Now, there are drawbacks to that, obviously, because then people maybe get a little bit too comfortable drinking. Like maybe there should be some more hurdles and barriers to just getting drunk. Like maybe you should need a reason. I don't know. But the nice part about Wisconsin is we don't need a reason to get drunk. Therefore, most activities that in other places of the country are heavily correlated with drinking aren't necessarily filled with drunk people. I don't know about local campgrounds, but you might be right. Clemhead Mike. There's a lot of people who want to get away for the weekend and get drunk, and who can blame them? But I can do that in my neighborhood bar, and then I can go sleep in my bed. That's fine. I'll just do that. I prefer that. I'm glad the camping discourse has reached the show. Talking a little bit in hour number 1 about some of the things the Brewers have done well over the 7-game winning streak. Now, Darnell wanted to be a smart ass, which is fine. That's fun. But I thought the 3 biggest parts of the 7-game winning streak so far have been Chourio and Yelich figuring it out. Yelich, by the way, named NL Player of the Week earlier today. How about that? May 26th through June 1st, 5 games. He's hitting .500, slugging 1,000, 10 hits, 5 home runs, 9 RBIs. That's pretty good. So Yelich and Chourio figuring it out. Thing number 1. Thing number 2, the bullpen holding it down in close games and really yesterday showing elite stuff because they were rested. And then lastly, I don't think you could describe and sum up this Brewers winning streak without pointing out gaffes made by Boston and Philly. But my point has been, doesn't the Brewers' style of play kind of lend itself well to forcing mistakes from the other team, putting the ball in play, putting pressure on the defense and the pitcher? So Yelich and Chourio, the bullpen, the other team making mistakes sometimes, like those things are replicable. Those are things that the Brewers on some level should be able to sustain, right? That's my point. So I'm watching the Brewers play this brand of baseball and win with this brand of baseball that I believe to be sustainable on some level. I'm not telling you they're going to win 7 games every other week. But if they look more like the team we saw over the last 7 games than the team that we have seen for long stretches of the rest of the season, I think they can show better than they've shown so far. That might equate to finishing with 83 wins, and that's not going to be enough. But could they find their way to, win 5 or 6 more games? Could they get closer to 90 than 80? Well, then we're having a discussion of whether they could weasel their way in, which I know sounds like a low bar to clear Brewers fans, but consider where we were a month ago. You know what I mean? I've really enjoyed watching this team over the stretch. And I think even if these wins aren't replicable, and even if you want to tell me the Red Sox suck, which they do, and they caught the Phillies at a good time and they were due, okay, maybe. I think vibes matter more to this Brewers team than they do to some other baseball teams. I don't know that vibes are that important to the Dodgers. They have all the talent. Cubs have got a lot of talent. They're slugging the ball really well. I don't know that they need vibes, which is a good thing considering their manager is Slenderman. But this Brewers team, like, if the only thing accomplished in the 7-game winning streak is the vibes are improved, I think that matters. I think that's productive. I think there's something there. Because this team, the way they're constructed, or I guess what they lack, which is a lot, like the vibes need to be high. The vibes were high all of last year, and I think that allowed this team and helped this team to win a lot of ball games they probably shouldn't have won. They also had good talent. They had good players who were producing at a high level. But vibes for this team, I think, matters more than a lot of other teams around baseball. Does that make sense? I hope it does. 608-321-1670, Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
This is Brenda.
Hey, Brenda, what's going on? What's new?
Oh, not a whole lot. Not a whole lot. I kind of agree with you. The vibe thing, I think it's a confidence thing for this team, especially with all the younger guys and stuff. And Yelich, when he's confident, he's confident. Chourio is still gaining confidence.
He's a kid.
I would add to those two, I would add Rhys Hoskins has figured it out too. His batting average has gone way up.
Yeah. He's to a level where I've never even seen it because he's never been this guy, Brenda. I think this year, at times, maybe he's shortened up his stroke, or maybe it's just been luck, but he's never been a guy who hits 270 or more. He's strikeout home run guy, which was fine. The Brewers could use that guy too. But if he also starts mixing in some home runs to the player profile we've seen the rest of the year, that's in a really good spot. I think Murphy's talked about edge. Right, Brenda? Like this team has yet to find its edge, or they've lost their edge. If the only thing accomplished in a 7-game winning streak is finding some sort of an edge, I think that helps this team more than it would help other teams.
I agree with you on that one. And for camping wise, when I was 25 and younger, I could do the tent thing. Now that I'm well over 25, give me a hotel room, give me a B&B, I would even do the glamping thing with the really nice RV, with the air in the shower, that'd be fine. Cause that's like a hotel room on wheels,
Basically.
I mean, that's fine. I could do that. But now that I'm old, no ground for me. I don't even care if it's a tent with a blow-up mattress. I am done with blow-up mattresses. I am on a bed.
Yeah, I want to sleep in a building like an adult in 2025. That's a great call, Brenda. I appreciate it. The other thing, when you talk about glamping, you see these setups where it's like look at this little pop-up gazebo, or, this little tent that we've set up, and we have the table and the food and the drinks and the lights. And anytime I see that, it looks nice and it looks fun, but like someone's got to set that up and tear it down and clean it up. And then in Wisconsin, you can't leave that stuff out overnight. Otherwise, it'll all be soaked because it'll get damp. The dew will get to it. So now you got to put it away in the morning, and it's all messy and the car's soaked. It's like, why are we doing this? Why are we taking the inside outside and trying to recreate what we already have somewhere else? And again, I love being outside. I'm going to go to lacrosse tonight. And we're staying downtown because we're going to be broadcasting there live the next few days. The second that I'm done with if Bill and I get food, the second that I am done tonight, I might walk 700 loops around Riverside Park. That's all I'm going to do. I'm just going to put my AirPods in. And I'm just going to walk around outside, and I will do it until I'm ready to go to bed. I love being outside. If I get bored at home, probably drives my significant other crazy, I'm going to go for a walk. We've been laying on the couch too long. I just ate a big meal. I'm going to go for a walk. I'm going to throw my AirPods in. I'm going to listen to a podcast. I'm going to go for a walk. I'm going to go outside. I want to feel the sun. I want to feel the breeze. I want to get fresh air. It's just who I am. But when it comes time to sleep, no, I don't think so. And there are indoor spaces and outdoor spaces for a reason. I don't need to bring the outside in, and I certainly don't need to take the inside out. Let's take one more call here, and then we're going to take a break so we can get to Jesse Temple. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
This is Louie in Eau Claire.
What's up, Louie? How's it going?
Hey, Grant. See, it's definitely been nice to see the Brewers kind of perk up here. Just one thought. Be coming back here pretty soon. Woody is one of my all-time favorite Brewers. Just kind of that kind of the cliche bulldog kind of pitcher. I don't know if he'd be up for it, but if he would, wouldn't he be more valuable to this team as kind of a Josh Hader type, where he pitches 2 or 3 high leverage innings 2 or 3 times a week?
Did you hear the first hour of the show tonight, Louie?
I did not.
This is what I agree with you. I said the same thing. I wonder if Woody's more useful being another Aaron Ashby or DL Hall than joining the starting rotation, because you could get more use out of him. I don't know if his pitching style or his current velocity lends itself to being in that role. You know what I mean? I love the idea. I'm all on board with this.
I think that's the recipe. Each team needs to come up with a recipe for how they're going to win games. So if the starters, the Quinn Priester types and all that are going to go 4 or 5 innings, if like you said, a Hall and Ashby and somebody like a Woodruff could pitch, 2 innings each time, that means that the combination of Mears and Uribe and Koenig and McGill don't have to pitch in every tight game, because that's not sustainable.
Yeah.
Work. They've actually been pretty good, but they have to come up with a long-term kind of recipe to win that doesn't include those guys pitching in every tight game.
Yeah, and Woodruff being like, how valuable over the last week or so since Ashby and DL Hall have gotten back. Louie, you've seen it. How valuable has it been to have those guys? If a starter only goes 5, okay, well, we can ask DL Hall to pitch 2 innings, or we can ask him to open for Quinn Priester. Like, imagine if they have a third version of that. They have Hall, Ashby, and Woodruff, and they can use them to supplement the starting staff. Very similar to what they did in 2018. You know what I mean? I think it makes sense.
Exactly.
I like it.
And Tyler Alexander's out there doing the best he can. We're 60 games into this season. He's got 5 losses. I know wins and losses are kind of, they call them antiquated stats. He's a reliever, basically. He started a few games early in the season. He was the pitcher of record when they lost the lead 5 different times this year. Just being able to upgrade him to, like you said, a DL Hall or Ashby type has made a big difference just in the last week.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. That's why they DFA'd him. It's just not really a role that worked. He wasn't good enough to open. He wasn't good enough to use in leverage. Not that stopped them from trying. No, I agree with all that, Louie. And I wonder, as Brandon Woodruff starts to make his return, like Louie, you didn't hear the first hour of the show. I did a whole segment on that. I agree. I don't know if it fits perfectly, but I don't think he fits perfectly into any spot in the starting rotation right now either. So we'll see. We're going to take a break. Jesse Temple going to join us. And for those of you watching on the live stream, I convinced Jesse to jump on video with me today. That son of a gun. He's a handsome guy. Let's see that. Let's see that coiffed hair. Let's see that nice smile, Jesse. He's going to join us to talk about his new venture and to talk Badgers next.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 5 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 4 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
Wisco Sports Show. We'll wrap up tonight's show with the Monday mailbag. GrantBills21@gmail.com. Still time to submit your questions. Before we get there, I want to connect with our good friend, Jesse Temple, who's no longer with The Athletic, and he hasn't been for about 2 months. And he's been working quietly, unable to share what he's been working on. And this week he's launched his new project, Badger Connect, excuse me. He's still on the camp and everything with Zach. You've been following his stuff there. But I told him, I'm going to be on the road tomorrow, Wednesday, Thursday. If you want to come on and you want to talk Badgers and talk about your new project, we got to do it today. And he was nice enough to oblige. So here is our conversation from earlier today. Enjoy. Jesse Temple is back. We missed him last week for a couple of reasons. Number one, I kind of wanted to wait until some official visits happened and some other Badgers news happened, and that's happened. And also now Jesse is ready to announce his new venture, Badger Connect. Jesse, congrats. We're excited to follow and continue to consume your work. So tell us about your new venture.
Thanks very much, Grant. Yeah, Badger Connect. I'm the director of content there. I started there in April, but we didn't have a site and we had a lot of work to do. And Monday, June 2nd was officially launch day. So the intro story is up there. I think the first question that probably comes to mind is, what is Badger Connect and what will my role be? It's formerly VC Connect. So we're relaunching and rebranding with a membership structure that hopefully will bring in more Badgers fans. And I say there are two things that are going to make this a really special venture. One of them is really good content. That's where I come in. I've covered the Badgers for the last 14 years. And if you're familiar with my work from the last 7 years at The Athletic, that's what you're going to be seeing at Badger Connect, primarily football coverage, but certainly more basketball as well as volleyball and hockey. There's also some really cool video components, including a video running Wednesday morning that I did with Billy Edwards Jr. So you can expect some new videos every Wednesday morning with different players. Second thing that makes this unique are the giveaway opportunities. And that includes potential to be entered into giveaways for time with Coach Fickle or Greg Gard, time, for tickets, traveling with the team, autographed memorabilia, all those kinds of things. And the membership structure is this. For the content only, you get everything that I'm writing, all the videos. It's $10 a month or $100 a year. If you want to be entered into the giveaways and also decide which sport you want to support, it's $35 a month or $350 for the whole year. You can also add an additional $25 to support an additional team. But if you like football and you want to support that program and you want access to 10 plus giveaways every month for football specifically, that's the package for you. That's kind of what it is in a nutshell. We just want to bring in more people and give you access to something that provides value for your money. And the last thing that I would say is just what my coverage will look like. Again, like I said, a lot of it will be similar to what you saw at The Athletic. If the football team doesn't play well this season, I certainly expect to write about that and have my coverage reflected on that. I know that there have been some questions about that, but I wouldn't have accepted this position if I didn't believe in it and if I didn't have authority to decide what I wanted to write. So I'm eager to see what happens this year and really excited for this opportunity.
Yeah, and I know that people were first concerned was, am I going to be able to continue to read your coverage like I did at The Athletic? I think people wanted to retain some or all semblance of that to continue to follow your work because, and Zach has talked about this too, I just think you're the best Badger writer that there is, but also some video stuff and some multimedia stuff. So maybe one more time, additional to content-wise, additional to the writing, you're going to be able to do some different things with this venture that maybe you didn't get to do with The Athletic?
Yeah, well, from a video perspective, all of that is brand new. I wanted to bring something differentiating that takes you into the sort of inner world of these players where we interact and you can see some different sides to them. And I wanted it to feel like a podcast release. If your favorite podcast comes out Tuesday morning and you expect it, well, if these videos are coming out at least through June and July, it's been quite a run to get to this point, but we've got several lined up that you can expect something different each Wednesday. And then in terms of the written coverage, I think one of the things I've enjoyed most about covering the Badgers and just what I like about being a sports writer are some in-depth stories that take you inside to elements that you just wouldn't otherwise know about. And I'm going to have the opportunity to do that and tell stories in new ways here. And so that, again, is part of why I think this venture has a chance to be really special. And I already have all the week one stuff lined up. That can be subject to change because there's always new news developing, but I'm really excited about what we have to offer for week 1 and in the future as well.
So you can go to badgerconnect.com. I'm looking at it right now. Or if you just find Jesse's Twitter, you follow him, the link and all of the latest is posted right there. And he's got it linked in his bio as well at Jesse Temple. A couple Badgers notes, because there have been some developments over the last week. You and Zach in the camp talked about the latest developments in the class of 2026. So let's just talk about that. And then also the latest on Amari Latimer, because that's been a big story that you guys have followed. And I circled when I was listening to the camp, you and Zach both talking about the importance of getting that star running back in the class of 2026. So I wanted to ask you a little bit more about that too.
Sure. I'll start with Latimer. Obviously, Wisconsin didn't end up with any commits in the 2025 class at running back because the Badgers went all in on Byron Lewis, didn't get him. And they were okay standing pat because they signed 3 running backs in the previous class, which includes Darian Dupree and Dylan Jones, potentially your 1-2 combination this season, as well as Gideon Atuka. And then the Badgers didn't add anyone through the transfer portal. That says a lot about how the staff feels about the young guys. But you need star power to replenish, especially now when you say you want to get back to a lot of the roots of Wisconsin football. And if you're going to be here for a while and Jeff Grimes is going to build this offense, getting a guy like Latimer would really say a lot. He's from Georgia. His older brother, Jameer, just transferred in this offseason to Wisconsin. So that certainly has to help the cause. But this is a kid who has nearly 50 offers, and he's got all of his official visits lined up. And that includes some premier programs, the Georgias of the world. So, it would be a huge win for the Badgers. I feel as though they're in a very good position. And they do have 3 guys who committed on Sunday, publicly committed. There are still a few more that are going to be rolling out, but 2 defensive linemen, Jijuba and Arthur Scott, and then an in-state product from Appleton, linebacker Ben Wenzel. That's somebody that I think is important just from the in-state perspective, because we get a lot of conversation about that. And he's someone he was also strongly considering Oklahoma. He had an official visit lined up to see the Sooners. Those other defensive linemen had a lot of major offers and official visits as well. So Wisconsin usually hits home runs in the first weekend of official visit season because it doesn't get much better than Madison in the summer or late spring.
Well, and that was going to be my next question. You've been around some of these official visits. How are these recruits met when they arrive on campus? Like, what are some of the things that they are shown and places they are taking? Like, can you just paint a little bit of a picture so we have an idea of what that looks and sounds like?
I wrote a pretty in-depth story about this a year and a half ago for The Athletic, looking at the first 2 official visit weekends of the Luke Fickell era. So this would have been 2 summers ago. How much money was spent? What did they do? I believe the total for the first 2 official visit weekends then was like $319,000. They roll out the red carpet. They literally rolled out the red carpet at times when they would have the players enter the facility and they would play jump around. But all these guys stay at the Edgewater Hotel. When they get to their room, their bed is just decorated with signs and thank you for being here and all the goodies. They ask the guys in advance what their favorite snacks are so they can have them provided. They eat these really great meals. The parents are wined and dined. There's a lot of meals at steakhouses. They do a dinner at Luke Fickell's house. They pick out flowers for it. I think 2 years ago, they even rented a laser tag and had an hour laser tag set up inside Camp Randall Stadium. So there are a lot of activities. A couple of those guys in that class committed when they were on a boat, I think on Lake Monona, because you just get the complete Madison UW experience for that full weekend. And again, when you get them here the first weekend, then it makes every subsequent official visit they take a comparison to what it was like at Wisconsin, which is what the Badgers want.
Sure. I would put Wisconsin this time of year versus just about anywhere, anytime. So I know that's what they're going for. Lastly, on football, you guys had Jack Snaker on the camp, and I listened to that. I was struck by, and he's a football guy, so he wants every opportunity. And sometimes these players, or if you talk to coaches, they're just going to say things because that's what you're supposed to say as a coach or as a player. But I was struck by his excitement for anything they want me to do, whether it's tight end or fullback, or if they want me to go run routes, I'll do that. Like, just a real well-rounded football player in mind who seems excited to really take on any responsibility that he's given in this Jeff Grimes offense.
Total team guy who's had to occupy a number of roles already. Played fullback, then was moved to running back. Now he's moved to a tight end. It's a combination. And then Zach and I talked about this during the spring showcase, for example, on the first drive. I think I counted 5+ snaps where he was lined up as a fullback. And I talked to him in the spring. Jackson said that is his favorite position. That's probably what he's best at. You can be versatile from that spot too, because you can knock a dude on his butt, which he does a lot. You can take a fullback dive and score a touchdown. He did that in the showcase as well. And he can also catch passes out of the backfield, or if they choose to line him up in different ways as a tight end, he can have success there. I think he's as versatile as any so-called fullback Wisconsin has had of late, and they're certainly going to need that position in Jeff Grimes' new offense.
And lastly, Jesse, a couple quick hitters on basketball. Blackwell is not going to the NBA draft you've probably seen that process where a player explores and then pulls back. Is there anything that we should know about that process, or is it pretty standard from what you had seen in the past with other guys like him?
I would say stay tuned for a really cool story coming up later in the week. So nice transition and segue. John Blackwell ended up working out for a few different NBA teams. He trained in Los Angeles and got really good feedback. But the best case scenario for him, if he wasn't going to come back to Wisconsin, was your first-round draft pick. Obviously, he wasn't invited to the combine. They were tremendously talented players, but the group that he worked out with had a couple of guys who were sticking in the draft and going to be first-round NBA draft picks, including a guy who was his roommate. But he's coming back here with all the confidence in the world. He felt like he did about as well as he could, and he did receive some important constructive feedback. But to maintain a piece like that for Wisconsin, and then Nolan Winter as well, and certainly Jack Janicki, but starting with Blackwell, who's going to have an increased scoring load, I think it's going to be a really good year for John Blackwell. And maybe he puts himself in position where a year from now, he doesn't have to choose. He knows he's going to the league.
And that confidence is important. Lastly, do you have a take on Wisconsin playing 2 games at Fiserv, non-conference against Oklahoma, and then they're playing Villanova at Fiserv Forum, and it doesn't seem that wild because in Wisconsin we think of Fiserv clearly as that's where the Bucks play, that's where Marquette, but lots of things take place there. But I tried to compartmentalize or picture this as what if Wisconsin hosted, I don't know, Michigan State and Indiana at the Kohl Center? It just does seem bizarre from the Marquette side, but do you have any thoughts on those 2 games in Milwaukee?
It does seem a little jarring just because you're used to, if it's a game in Wisconsin, you're going to play it at the Kohl Center. On the other hand, take advantage of the opportunity. Let's just look at the matchup with Villanova, for example, since that's a regular season matchup. I don't know that's one that would have been agreed to if it was at the Kohl Center, because if you have a so-called neutral site game, even if it isn't technically neutral, then they can get compensated in a way that I don't know that they could if it was at the Kohl Center. So, and there's going to be return games. So if you're a Marquette fan, it has to burn you up inside, but it's not just Marquette's gym. So again, it's the Bucks. And I think it's a cool opportunity and a neat experience to watch Badgers play in a venue and not just against Marquette.
No, I agree. It's hard to view this as anything but a jab at Marquette. And I know it's probably not. It's a way to give an opportunity to folks in Milwaukee to come see a game and probably to facilitate the matchup. But I'm so, and fans like myself are so caught up in Wisconsin Marquette and the smack talk back and forth, it does seem, it almost seems intentional, even though I'm sure that it's not. So follow Jesse on Twitter, Jesse Temple, and then Badger Connect. His first story is up explaining all the things that you can expect from his new venture. Jesse, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, Grant. Talk soon.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Big River Rally coming to La Crosse, Wisconsin, June 27th and 28th. Don't miss the excitement on the main stage Friday night. It's Texas Hippie Coalition. And Saturday night, Drowning Pool. Tickets are on sale now. Want more? Follow Big River Rally on social or go to BigRiverRally.com.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
Because the mail never stops. Charles, I'll be writing to you.
Ah, She's Got Mail. That's the name of the movie.
That's it, honey. There's never a let-up. It's relentless. Every day it piles up more and more and more. You got to get it up, and the more you get out, the more it keeps coming in.
The Monday mailbag. Perfect way to wrap up the Wisco Sports Show on Monday. Thanks again to Road America for sponsoring the Monday show every week. Camping became a topic earlier because I was talking about all the great things to do at Road America. And I was saying everybody always sings the praises of the campgrounds. People who go up there, they talk to me. We love camping there. It's our favorite place to camp. And I was making a point that jumps out to me because I'm someone who does not like camping. It's just not my thing. It's not a Road America thing. It's just a general principle thing. But also, I normally camp in a tent. I don't have an RV. Like some of you have it figured out. No wonder you like camping up at Road America. And the campground's beautiful. I'm reading more comments. Bobby says numerous showers, actual bathrooms, the Broad House right on the corner. Like every time I bring it up, people are like, I've camped there. It's great. Eric on 990 called in and says, Grant, if you could stay in my camper, you would like it. And Jay Krebs emails the mailbag, grantbills21@gmail.com, says, let's be real. Eric on 990 isn't camping. He's hanging out in a movable house. Eric doesn't even like camping, hence the camper. More of a comment, really less of a question, but still worthwhile. Clumhead Mike says, hey, Grant, can people that are not signed up for the event on Thursday still stop by to say hi? I'm assuming you're talking about the Junior Achievement Golf Outing. My guess would be yes. I don't know if there's going to be much for you to do. I guess what I would tell you is come by and say, hey, I just wanted to say hey to Grant and Bill when they were in town, and then make a donation to the cause. Doesn't have to be hundreds of dollars, but like throw them a 10 or that's what I would suggest doing. Be like, hey, I'm here to contribute. I just want to say hey to Grant and Bill. See the show for a sec. I can't imagine why that would be an issue. If it is, I'm sorry. I don't mean to give you bad advice, but that would be my advice, Clement. Tyler in Massachusetts. With the Brewers having $1 hot dog day last Monday, what's the most number of hot dogs you could eat during a game? I feel like the answer is probably 4 or 5. I mean, I could eat more, but why would I want to do that? That would just be, then I'd get sick. I wouldn't like that. I think over the course of 9 innings, I could probably eat 4 or 5. Hot dog discourse in this country has completely gone in the crapper. Like, I don't know where everyone got so confident all of a sudden that hot dogs shouldn't have ketchup on them. This was a thing that peaked like 2 or 3 weeks ago, maybe a month ago. Everyone's like, if you put ketchup on your hot dog, It's like, wait, what? And then I guess I looked it up, or I guess traditionally hot dogs are supposed to have mustard or whatever. Look, people are way too cocky with their food opinions. If you put mustard on a brat, a good brat shouldn't need anything. Yeah, but what if I just want a little mustard? Jesus. Like, what if I just want a little mustard? Is that really the end of the world? Because your great uncle, Adolf, should have picked a different German name, but I couldn't think of one. Because your great uncle, Max, he was a Nazi in The Sound of Music. Not like a super aggressive Nazi, but it's a good German name. Hans. He's from that one Quentin Tarantino movie. I'm not allowed to put mustard on my brat just because your great uncle lived in Germany once upon a time. Like, I hate that. What if I just want a little mustard on it? And now with hot dogs, I get it with brats at least. Traditional, right? Brat here from Germany, sausages, finely cured and smoked. Hot dogs are, God only knows what body parts. We're now gatekeeping what we can put on a hot dog. real hot dog shouldn't have any ketchup. Are you here to tell me that real vanilla ice cream shouldn't have hot fudge just because that's not how you like it? You're going to act like the rest of the world is stupid for doing something that's as normal gets with food? I just... People with their food takes. Don't even get me started on Andy Herman. That guy's ripping about chicken nuggets and candy and pizza all the time. It's like, I, as a rule of thumb, just don't like judging what other people eat. You know how rude it is when you're eating, when you're hanging around with people and you have your plate of food and someone goes, ew, you're eating that? It's like, this is my meal, you dick. You know, I just let people eat what they want to eat. And deep down, you can think it's gross. I'm also not a super picky eater. I don't like olives, but I'll still eat them sometimes because I'm not a child. If a meal has olives, I can eat an olive. I don't like olives. I'll suck them down. It'll be fine. But again, people have gotten way too handsy and touchy with food restrictions. You can't put ketchup on a hot dog. That's gross. This was on the Tigers broadcast a couple weeks ago. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I'm like, you guys, put what you want on what you want. How's that sound? I had a hot dog at IKEA on Saturday. Not as good as the Costco hot dog, although it could have just been an old hot dog. But I have traditionally enjoyed the Costco dog more than I enjoyed the IKEA dog. First time to IKEA. A whole new world in there. I've never been to one of those stores. They stage it all, and we got a lamp. Pretty cool lamp. Not overly expensive either. They got some cool lamps for good money. We have a couple IKEA lamps in our household. Anywho, back to the mailbag. Your questions, grantbills21@gmail.com. Appreciate your submissions. None of this last hour of the show was any sort of criticism on the camping accommodations at Road America. In fact, it was quite the opposite. I hear nothing but exemplary reviews. People say it's our favorite place to camp. It's the best place to camp. Rick on the live stream. Now we got Bobby talking about it, and Nick. So again, go online, make your plans. We're into IndyCar season, the Superbikes as well. But if that's too much, if you're like, well, I want to go up there, but I don't want it to be when everyone else is up there. Well, they have lots of things, lots of options throughout the summer. Some are a little bit more key or low key, I should say. So if you want to go for a driving school or a sunset cruise or, something with more vintage cars, they got options throughout the summer as well. RoadAmerica.com for all of the information and to buy your tickets. Tomorrow, I will be at Copeland Park in La Crosse. Bill will be broadcasting at Flipside tomorrow from 10 to 2, also in La Crosse. Wednesday, I will be at Flipside from 4 to 6. It's a place that I broadcasted a bunch, so stop by. You might meet a couple of other listeners in the wild, which is always very interesting when you meet other listeners and people who call. It's always a good time. It'll be happy hour. Fish taco day is Wednesday, so $5 fish tacos all day. You can go early and get those. You don't have to wait until the show starts at 4. It should be fun. And then we're in Eau Claire on Thursday, so coming to the western side of the state. Excited to see some of you, and always appreciate our WKTY listeners, in La Crosse. Podcast will go up in just a couple minutes after 6 o'clock. I will see some of you in La Crosse. The rest of you, I will talk to you tomorrow at 4. Have a good night. Thanks for listening.